the mercy seat. I mean,
I said, it's the blood of your Messiah.
and I don't like seeing God's work so grossly misrepresented to get funds from people and to get support from people.
Ron Wyatt's work is still very popular on the internet, and I can understand why. This is an incredible story. But if you look just a little deeper, you'll find statement after statement from people who were lied to by Wyatt and defrauded out of quite a bit of money. One patron of Wyatt's lost $30,000 on one of these holy adventures. Wyatt said he needed another $10,000. This patron said only if you take a lie detector test. At first, Ron Wyatt scoffed, but he needed the money. He took the test. The man who administered the test said, and I quote, "He failed just about everything except his name." But what about all the evidence? The metal detectors, ground-penetrating radar? Well, most of it was faked or cherry-picked. The metal detectors used weren't professional. They were purchased from the back of treasure hunting magazines. Modern professional metal detectors have found iron at the site, but it's the same type of iron found in soil all over the area. No trained scientist has ever seen any of the petrified wood or petrified dung or anything like that. The only people who saw these things were Ron, or the people paid by Ron. Now, the Drogue Stones are a compelling piece of the story because they are there, and they've clearly been there a long time. But the stone is locally quarried. Drogue stones from Noah's Ark would have come from Mesopotamia, not the mountains of Turkey. And the boat-shaped formation is probably the result of a mud flow. You can see shapes like this all over the area. Now, supporters of Ron Wyatt's theories, and there are a lot of those, have answers for all of this. That the boat was actually higher up the mountain but traveled down a lava flow. But boats don't float on lava. They burn.
They burn real good.
But thousands and thousands of people throughout history did and do consider this a holy place. Maybe Noah's Ark was there. I can't prove it wasn't, but I can prove Ron Wyatt was a liar. Now, as to why the CIA kept the photos classified, well, it was the Cold War, and these were photos from spy planes, and a few of those planes weren't exactly in friendly airspace. After the fall of the Soviet Union, releasing the photos wasn't a problem. Now, the Great Flood. If you follow this channel, you know that I believe that really happened, and I believe it happened at the end of the Younger Dryas. I believe a massive solar event melted the ice caps and created the biggest catastrophe in human history. And if you follow this channel, you also know that the thing I fear most is not nuclear war or civil unrest or pandemics. I fear the sun. If an asteroid is headed our way, we'll see it, and we may even be able to do something about it. And if an asteroid actually hits, I believe the world would come together and all nations would do everything they could to help one another.
No, actually, I think they would hide the truth. They won't let you actually go on doing your life and not tell you. That's how I really believe our leaders would act. Or they become authoritarian, crazy people and kill those who don't want to follow their rules. That's literally what I see. Not this whole kumbaya, let's help each other.
Major solar flare or coronal mass ejection, there's nowhere to hide from that. Not in a mountain cave or deep underground. The heat and radiation would be disastrous to us and our planet.
Yeah, we could hide underwater, like the aliens.
Now that's true. Water is effective at absorbing radiation, and the deeper you go, the safer you are. And I'm sure the aliens in the ocean know that. Now, speaking of aliens, is that what's going on in the Book of Enoch? Most of the flood myths start the same way, with a warning from a godlike figure, and they end the same way, with a godlike figure helping restart civilization. Now, I can't definitively prove that this is true. Nobody can. But if we keep pressuring our governments about UAPs and UFOs, we may eventually get some answers. Humanity did take a leap forward in technology many thousands of years ago, and maybe those ancient humans had help. Enoch physically goes to a place that sounds like a spaceship. The prophet Elijah also talks about riding a chariot of fire.
What?
I thought you were going to sing that.
Thor.
Well, now I
Chariot
don't
of
want
fire.
it.
Elijah talks about riding a chariot of fire over the earth with a human-like being. Elijah is amazed by the sound of the vehicle and how
If I'm not mistaken, I think it's like the chariot. Isn't it chariot of Thor too? Yeah, I remember this too. It was supposed to be. I thought it was a fire too, or not? Yeah, I thought it was always a fire. Was it on fire? Let's ask ChatGPT. I thought it was one. I knew Thor had a chariot though, or at least that's a. Let me just ask. Let me just ask. It's like thunder though. Okay, not fire.
fast it moves. Other cultures and religions have similar stories. Muhammad ascends to heaven and meets Allah before returning to earth. In Hinduism, Arjuna is taken to heaven and lives there for a few years before coming back down. There are many more of these myths, but are they myths? Maybe these things did actually happen, but they're written down as myths because the technology is so far ahead of what existed at the time. Maybe these were visitations and abductions. There's a tribe in West Africa called the Dogon, and there are about 100,000 of them who mostly live in caves and cliffs. They're still a primitive people. The Dogon religion says that long ago, they were visited by aliens from the Sirius star system. These aliens told the Dogon that they helped the Egyptians, the Greeks, and the Sumerians with their civilizations. But what's really amazing is the Dogon are aware of the star Sirius B, which the tribe calls Potolo. Sirius B is invisible to the naked eye. It was first discovered in 1862. But the Dogon people had no telescopes. They still don't. Yet not only were they aware of the star Sirius B, they knew it was a white dwarf companion star to the much brighter Sirius A. The Dogon knew the length of Sirius B's orbit in years. They knew the shape of its orbit. They knew it was a dense star. They relayed all this information to a visiting anthropologist in the 1930s. They even said there's a third star in the Sirius system, but there wasn't. Until there was. In 1995, a study concluded that a third companion star exists. More recent studies aren't so sure, but the Dogon people are. Allegedly, the Dogon were also aware of Jupiter's moons and Saturn's rings. Now, skeptics like to poke holes in the Dogon story, and I think that's fine. Like the Dogon were wrong about the number of Jupiter's moons. But they were right about Sirius B. The story of Enoch seems to be based on ancient Sumerian stories, like a lot of the Bible is. When people talk about the Book of Enoch, they're referring to what's officially called First Enoch, because there are 3 books. Biblical scholars consider the books of Enoch pseudepigrapha, that is, a biblical work that falsely claims authorship by a biblical character. That doesn't mean the books of Enoch weren't known or weren't important. In fact, First Enoch is quoted in Jude 14 through 15. Enoch was known and was important, but the book is not considered inspired by God and therefore is apocryphal and not part of canon.
Still a page turner.
Oh yeah, it's a good read. Now, some parts of Enoch are said to have been written later to expand on stories from the Bible, like the birth of Noah and Enoch's visit to heaven. These were interesting characters and people wanted to learn more. So someone, or many someones, we don't know who, just wrote more.
Yeah, it's like Bible fan fiction.
It's exactly like that. But different religions and denominations are going to have different interpretations. Remember, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church says the book is canon, and that church has been around for almost 3,000 years. Some Christians think reading the book is heresy, a crime against the church. But most scholars consider the Book of Enoch an important text that gives additional insight into the lives and beliefs of the people living at the time. Honestly, whether the Book of Enoch is canon or not, that's not important to me. It's an interesting academic discussion. As you know, I'm not religious, but I am fascinated by and have great respect for religions, all religions. I enjoy the stories, and for the most part, I think they teach good lessons. I'm more into fishes and loaves than fire and brimstone, but that's just my taste. But I know I'm going to hear it in the comments. Every time I do a religious story, I get attacked. In the comments, there's going to be people screaming at me in all caps to take Jesus into my heart or I'm going to hell. If that's what you believe, that's okay. I don't believe that. I don't know what happens after we die. I'm inclined to say nothing, just black. But there's a big piece of my heart that really wants to be wrong. Because when I finally pass on and walk down that tunnel, if I'm greeted by family and friends long past, and I find myself standing at the pearly gates, the first words out of my mouth are gonna be, thank God. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. My name is AJ, that's Hecklefish.
Peace be unto the human. Grateful am I for thine eyes that have watched and thine ears that have heard.
This has been the Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything, do him a favor, subscribe, comment, like, share. Hitting the buttons really helps us out. And like most topics we cover on the channel, today's was recommended by you. So if there's a story you'd like to see or learn more about, go to theyfiles.com/tips. And remember, the Y-Files is also a podcast. Twice a week, I post deep dives into the stories we cover here on the channel. I also post episodes that wouldn't be allowed on the channel.
Marjorie
It's called
Taylor Greene.
There's been a pretty public breakup between the president and some members of
Maybe
Congress
not.
over Epstein and
Her name is Marjorie.
her name is Marjorie Taylor
You can
Greene.
say it,
Yeah,
it's okay.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Take a listen to what she had to say earlier this week.
I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me.
Congressman Burchett, what do you think about this breakup? What's going on here?
Wait, so Marjorie Taylor Greene never received any money from?
No, her and Massey were the only Congress people didn't get any money from AIPAC.
Oh, wow. From AIPAC.
See that a lot in politics. You also see people kiss and make up. I don't know that those two will ever. But Marjorie, she's been an independent person since she got here, and President Trump obviously speaks his mind.
Boy. So we got to talk about a major announcement from Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay, who last time we checked in on her, she was on CNN issuing a groveling apology for, honestly, I don't even know what she was apologizing for, and she was boo-hoo whining, crying about President Trump, criticizing her for the fact that she continued to essentially speak out against him and his administration on certain policies.